Hello.
How are you?
I am good. I am good. We just sent our son away for the weekend. He's well, first he's going to school, and then he's got a girlfriend who lives about an hour away. So he's taking the train right after school. Her birthday is on Sunday, so they're celebrating. And yeah, we're already into that, teenager partly living at home.
Happy days.
It's good for us because
it's good to spend time with our kids sometimes, isn't it? So
Yeah. It really is, and we just laughed this morning because we hear about this empty nest syndrome.
Yeah,
and I said to Alex, I don't think we're going to suffer from that.
No, not at all. It was quite funny. Marley went away during the week to a friend for a couple of nights, and me and Rebecca are laying down. We're like, "This is what it'll be like soon." Like, there'll be just us here, won't there? So yeah.
Yeah, but it's fine. I mean, it's the way it should be, and the fact that Anton wants to go there, he's known her since November or so, and he spent some weekends there. He's getting along great with her parents, and she's been here for several times now. It's fine. It's what independence is about. They build their own lives outside of their home, and that's the way it should be. I'm really all for that. I was about the same age, if not, in fact, a little younger when I had my first girlfriend, and but she was living, right across the street, more or less. I went to school with her, but it wasn't like, going away for the entire weekend, but it was still, it was a life outside home, and that's what it's about. Yeah.
Well, because I live in the country, like we had a lot of towns around us, and my first girlfriend, she lived 22 kilometres away, and I remember riding my push bike 22 kilometres to a town on a number of occasions, actually. So,
wow.
Because my mum never had a car licence, so my dad only had a licence, and he was at work all the time. So it was either ride your bike, basically, or there was a bus, but it used to go at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and things like that. So
when you say
I rode my bike quite a few times.
When you say push bike, you did have the pedals.
Yeah. Back in them days, So some days I used to make her meet me halfway though, so that was okay.
Yeah. Well, 22 kilometers on a bike is that's doable. You can do that within an hour, I guess. So
it was only about an hour, I think.
Yeah. So no, that's fine. I mean, I grew up, riding my bike all the time. It was what we had. Me too. My parents, we did have a car. We had two cars when I was a little older, but still, my parents said, if you want to go somewhere, take your bike.
That's it. I mean, it's a lot different now, I guess, with kids. Like I used to get up on the weekend and go out at 9 o'clock on my bike. I was big in the days when BMXs were around, and all my friends used to have BMXs, and we used to go off exploring, and I'd come home at tea time at 5:30 at night, and that was how it was back in them days.
No phones, no way to track your kids anywhere. It's just as you say, it was a different time, and I can understand that in some areas of the world you would probably not be all too relaxed with not hearing from your child and not knowing where your child was until the evening, because that can be a lot of hours.
I sort of often think, was it safer back then or not? But because you didn't know, because you didn't have access to
I think that's
so much information and connectivity and things like that, that if things untoward were happening, you didn't actually know. You know what I mean? Like, so
that's it. The world,
kids went out.
this notion that the world was more innocent back then, I don't think it's right. I don't think that's correct. I think we just know, we see everything now, which is not always for the better, because then we worry, and you can't really always do something about your worry. It will only prevent you from living your life, really, because there's all these sayings where you say, if you worry about tomorrow, you can't live today, which is partly true.
Well, look, you just got to trust your kids at some stage to make the right decisions, I guess, don't you? And that's all you can do. Marley's just turned 17, so she started going to some parties here and there. So we sometimes let her take like a couple of drinks, like, 3 or 4 cans of, like some cider or something like that. And, Rebecca's always worried and things like that. And I'm like, well, if you can't let her make a bad decision now, she's never going to learn to make the right decision when she gets older,
That's true.
These things need to happen.
Well, listeners, you're already well into another episode of Southern Summers and Northern Winters, and we're just talking about our kids growing up, which is also part of life, I guess. It's been a while. You are traveling with Marley this time. You are with No.
So we're going to leave our 17-year-old daughter home for the first time for nearly 3 weeks by herself. So
true,
we'll see
right.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Because we're still bringing Anton with us, but he's a couple of years younger than Marley.
Yeah. Well, we left Willow at home when she was 17, and we went to Europe for 3 weeks. So so it's sort of about that time. Look, she's got a good support system. My sister only lives maybe 200 metres up the road, so if there's any real issues, she can go and see her and things like that. So it makes it a bit easier.
But it's also because we talk a lot about traveling and traveling with, the older your kid or kids get, there are just different challenges to traveling as a family, aren't there? It's just
definitely.
And Anton,
look, you need it. You really need or for us, we really need 2 rooms, because Marley's at that age where, not just for that, but if we're all sitting in the same room all the time, we would end up killing each other. She needs her space and we need our space. So that actually puts an extra strain on your budget too for travelling, because you're basically paying for another adult, aren't you, all the time? Whereas when they were kids, you could get kids' meals, you get a room for 3 people, and you'd also a room for 4 people, at times even, and it was all that much cheaper. But as they get older, it becomes just like paying for another adult, literally, doesn't it? So
it does, exactly that. And oftentimes, we our recent trip to Tuscany. Often Anton didn't even want to go anywhere with us. He just can I just stay in the room and just hang? If I can order something from the restaurant, sure, you can. Then why don't you just go? So because I don't want to go anywhere. Okay, fine. He just wanted to hang out in the hotel. It was a nice hotel, so I mean he just wanted to hang out in the lounge area and just enjoy himself.
Our kids are like that at times too. I think where did we go last? When we went to China last year, like in December, and Thailand when we were in there in January, like a few days, Marley just said it's too hot and I don't like the heat, and I'm just stay at the apartment and I'll order Uber Eats in and and watch TV or play on a computer or whatever, and that's fine because like I said, after you. We were traveling not long, it was about 3 weeks, but, after spending every day of the first 10 days together, it was quite fine for her to stay home. So
exactly. That's the thing.
Without her,
But that's the thing. People maybe tend to forget. You don't. When you go on holiday, it's as you think you need to enjoy yourself. It's it feels sort of forced upon you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But everyday life comes with you in at least your inner family dynamics. They travel with you, and you need to respect those as well, and just say, let's just all take a break from each other. It's fine. And Alex and I, we kind of enjoyed it. Actually, we went,
definitely.
for an evening for ourselves, and it was fine. It was absolutely fine. Yeah. So no, that's great. And having a teenage kid with you who's really not in the mood for anything, that's really annoying as well.
It. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. No two persons' holidays are the same,
No.
So if kids think it's a holiday and sit in a hotel room in a different country and that's what they want to do, well, it used to really annoy me, to be honest, when our kids were younger, not younger, but like 13, 14. And I would leave them then because there was two of them. So it sort of still felt, okay. But it used to really annoy me because I was like, I'm paying all this money to take you somewhere.
Exactly.
And all you want to do is sit in a hotel room. Like you could be doing that at home for way cheaper than what we're doing it here. But after a while you just go, look, no fighting because you drag them out, then they're grumpy, they don't want to see it, they're not interested, they're on their phones tapping away instead of looking at things, and just go, okay, whatever.
But then you have to look at it like this. You say, okay, I'm paying all this money, okay, but at least my wife and I can have a good time.
Definitely, yeah. Well, that's
in another country.
Especially if there's no option to leave them at home or anything like that by themselves.
Yeah.
So, look, Marley's in her second last year of school, so she really can't take 3 weeks. Well, she probably could if we forced the issue with the school, but she would say she would do homework while she's there, but in reality, she probably wouldn't do enough homework to sustain the level that
very
that she
likely,
needs to be at. So,
Yeah, no, in Germany it's different. We can't take him out of school. And it's a completely different system, but that actually just intensifies or may intensify a conflict, because we say, well, we have this limited amount of time, we can only do it like this, and then the kid is grumpy all the time. That's really annoying. I know a lot of people struggling with that. They we only have one kid, but imagine you have 3 or 4 kids. It's just
like I've said many times. Kids are they're not as sociable as we were when we were kids, and that's just a product of today's society with all the technology and speaking to people, online more than and all your experiences come online through TikTok and things like that.
True. That's true.
The way they like it, I guess, isn't it? So
Speaking of online, we already had an interaction on Facebook this morning, Mark, because I was annoyed that content is becoming sloppy, and content creators apparently are getting lazy because more and more things are obviously AI generated.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? You are a content creator. What's your
Well, it's pretty easy to tell, like, especially on YouTube, because, you're obviously using fake voices, and the wording is not natural a lot of times. It's stuff full of big and over descriptive, descriptions. I could say of things that don't flow naturally, but like I said to you, YouTube are obviously onto it, and they're banning monetizing accounts for anyone that uses AI-generated voices and things like that, which will put a halt on a lot of the AI creation that's flowing through YouTube at the moment.
I think they should have done that, up front, said, we're not allowing this. But okay, now we can see that the problem is really getting big. I just can't. There are 2 things to my annoyance with particularly YouTube, I must say, is one thing is AI generated narratives, narration.
Yep.
It's just, there's no rhythm, there's no cadence, there's just and even if so, it's still not natural. I am looking for imperfections, or anyone who's speaking over a video, and you do this a lot. I love it when things are not always totally perfect. It's just there's a human behind this. I want to feel that this is human to human. And also
I want to know what they're seeing and feeling, not what AI spits out and tells them is there, because everyone can search, what's there and and what to see. I want to know what you're really seeing and what you really think about it, not top 10 and this list. This is where I've been, basically.
True. And the next thing is, a lot of the videos. I am very much into music, and sometimes there are short documentaries made of pop and rock stars and how are their lifestyles and what are they doing now and stuff. But a video like that can be 25 to 30 minutes long, but the first 20 minutes is always their upbringing, how they got into music. I don't want to see that every goddamn time. Come on.
Nah,
I just want... The headline said, Paul McCartney's lifestyle 2025. Okay, I want to see that. I don't want to hear about how he started in the Beatles for 100th time. Come on. It's
it's full of, by nature, a fact is a fact. But there's a lot of the same thing on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like there's, 1,000 variations of the same bit of information that goes on everywhere. And a lot of that is through content creators and, people who have ideas. Like, one of the big ideas on YouTube was to what they call re-engineer a good idea. So, basically just take the same video and, make the title a tiny bit different and, produce exactly the same content, but just a little bit different. Because if that video had 1 million hits and you make one, similar to it, hopefully your video will, catch fire because it's popular with people and do the same thing. So, so there's a lot of re-engineering, as they call it, of popular videos,
which is literally garbage in my view. It's just, come on. And I don't know if a channel, do you get a different treatment by the algorithm if your videos are longer? I don't know, because sometimes these videos, they seem like incredibly long for very little information.
That's another monetization ploy, because the longer it is, if you're making a 4-minute video, you're only getting 4 minutes worth of watch time, because you have to have like so much watch time on YouTube before you can monetize for money. You have to have something like 4,000 hours of viewing time over 12 months and like 1,000 subscribers or something like that. So people often make videos that are an hour long in hope that people might, watch the first 10 or 15 minutes and then get bored and not watch the rest. But if they've watched 15 minutes, well, that's 15 minutes more than if they had a 4-minute video and people were only watching, 4 minutes of it. So it's a ploy a lot of the time to get the watch hours up towards monetization.
You would think YouTube would have thought of this, but obviously they didn't. They are not. They're not making a very good viewer experience. I'm already paying the premium family subscription.
That's it.
So yeah.
And you'll find even today, like a lot of people will say if they've got like 5 or 6 popular videos on one place, after they've made them, then they'll stack them all together and make an extra long version, of them all together. So they might have 4 20-minute videos that are popular. So then they'll put them all into one and call it like the ultimate video of, non-pen or the ultimate things to do. So then they're just re-engineering their content, making it longer. Like I watched a chick the other day and she had a 2.5-hour video on like Beijing, but she had like 10, normal length videos of 15 minutes or something. And all she'd done is cut them all together, and made a different voiceover transition into each section when she cut it into a 2.5-hour video.
Oh, so, man. Yeah.
It's a long watch. Look, I must admit, it's hard sometimes to come up with original ideas especially for travel, because if you go into Beijing, everyone goes and sees the same thing. If you're going to Munich, everyone goes and drinks a beer and, goes to a palace, and things like that. So there's only so many slants you can put on the same thing. Like I've spent a lot of time actually thinking about this in the last few weeks leading up to, this holiday we're going on, as to what I can make that's not already proliferated to death in these places, and things like that. So, So, it's rather and, so in non-pen, nearly every video I see, or a lot of them I see, for instance, is non-pen at night. There's a market that goes down by the river every night. So there's so many videos of walking in non-pen at night. So I'm actually going to go and make a video called what's it like in Phnom Penh at 6 a.m. because I'm up early in the morning, so I'm going to go out and walk around at,
it's a great idea.
6 a.m. and make an alternate to it. What's Phnom Penh like early in the morning, so, and things like that. So, yeah, it's whether anyone watches it or not, but it's just a different point of view to what all the ones that I see are.
Exactly. It's where I'm hoping AI can help us content creators a little bit would be, for instance, in the real-time translation, because that would allow people like you and me going someplace where we don't speak the language, but it would be nice to be able to interact and maybe do short interviews with like someone working in a stall in Phnom Penh. How do they? What's their day like and stuff like that? And then with a translator in your hand, you could actually, make some interactive content there. That would be nice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can actually buy earbuds now that translate for you if you want to wear them. They're fairly expensive. I was looking at them the other day because I thought maybe I should buy some of them for China, because China's one country where I've really got no idea what people are people are saying. I thought maybe I don't want to know what they're saying. So, in some retrospect, because you go, I'm not sure I really do want to know too much sometimes what people think or say. So, I didn't bother with it. But yeah, you can actually get these translating earbuds that apparently will translate for you in your ear. So
there's something about, because I went to Italy recently, and there's something about not knowing all about what they're saying, because there's something magical about Italian sounds so poetic, and there was a girl I used to work with. She lived in Florence for a while, and she said, after a while, when you get to know how they swear and how they, they're just like any other people in the world. It's not all it's not all magical, for sure.
Nah. I mean, the original reason I was going to buy them was so I could understand better what the people who Willow lives with were saying, but then I thought they say something bad about me, and then I really won't like them, So I thought I'm better safe to err on the side of caution, because I don't really want to know if they have a bad opinion, maybe even about my daughter or us. But I mean, I don't think they would, because they really like Willow, and they're strong in convincing her to stay in China with them as long as they possibly can. But I thought, just on the off chance they say something horrible, then I would never be able to get that out of my mind. You know what I mean? It would always be in the back of your mind when you went to see them. So I think sometimes you're better off not knowing.
And
literally.
This is interesting, because you're touching a point there where sometimes a directly translated sentence may have a culturally different meaning, where
definitely.
you will think they mean something, not positive, but could be the opposite.
I mean, I've got a few good examples of that, like because I'm a bigger bloke. A lot of times in Asia, people will say things, and in a Western society, you'd probably take that as being derogative. Like in Bali, if I go shopping, they say, "You want King Kong size T-shirt?" And they're not being derogative. That's just the way they say, "Do you want a large T-shirt?" Or I've been to Asia before where someone's gone, "You're a happy Buddha," things like that. And they're not being overly derogative. It's just their way of describing that. Hey, I'm a bigger size guy. But if someone said that to me in a Western country, you'd probably go, "That's a little bit rude, bro."
Exactly.
But in Asia, you go, well, obviously that's just the way they describe it, and they're not saying it derogatively, like they're smiling and talking to you, and things like that when they're sort of saying it. So so that's probably a really good example of a cultural difference, especially for, like I said, for bigger people in Asia, because everyone's like, the size of a stick figure in Asia.
Exactly.
Most people. So
but it's the same thing in Germany, even in the Western, here in Europe, the Germans are very direct. English normally there are a lot of polite extra words put into a sentence, and if it's not too much trouble, could you possibly do this for me? The Germans will ask you directly, and sometimes in a very even very direct form, they don't mean anything by that. It's just the way, in their culture here, it's just the way it is.
Maybe my wife's German.
Yeah. My wife is.
Yes.
But that's, and even I actually had this, experienced this, working in big companies, international companies, when we were to talk with the Germans, they would appear rude. That was before I moved here and got to know the Germans and the German culture. But talking to a German would always be like, they have no sense of humor. They're rude. It's not like that. It's just, it's just different. Yeah.
They have I find a lot of Germans have a tone where for sort of English people, they sound angry, but they're not angry. It's just they sort of talk forcefully, I guess, at times. And you sort of like, I've obviously spent enough time around Germans too now over the years. But when I first, encountered them, I always thought that they sounded really angry all the time, but not so. But actually, speaking of Germans, been anything in the media in Germany about the German girl that's lost in the outback here in Australia, which doesn't look good for her? There's a girl in Western Australia, and they found her car about 14 days ago, and she hasn't been sighted since in Western Australia. Yeah, so they think she's probably her car broke down about 35 kilometres from nowhere in Western Australia, somewhere north in Western Australia, and hasn't been spotted. So assumptions would be after 14 days, she's probably sad to say she's probably dead somewhere in the bush. So there's been a big search on for the last 4 or 5 days in Australia.
Wow, I haven't heard that. It's not in the media here, but it probably will come when she's found, I guess. I don't know.
So she was lost in the remote outback. Her car broke down in this Karen Hill Reserve, which is about 35 kilometres from any established roads. So, police are saying there's no evidence in her car of any foul play or anything. It's more likely she's just gotten out of her car and tried to go and find help, and I'd say probably hasn't found help and has come to a sad ending. I would assume anyway. She may not, but after 14 days, you would assume she'd probably be lucky to be found if she's in the outback. You would think at this stage. So,
what a tragedy! Very sad story. Germany, the Germans are curious people. That's really positively meant. They are everywhere in the world. They like to travel, and so I mean, even in the very southern parts of New Zealand, in the Fjordlands and everywhere, I could always spot a German because they would wear a particular type of outdoor clothes. But so they're everywhere. They're very adventurous. And also they trust. Not naively, but they do have this built-in trust in other people, so they don't think the worst of you, and that's just it's as I said, they're not naive, but I could imagine a girl like that in that situation, she would just have confidence enough and say, I'll just go on and see where I'm ending up. And as you say, look for help.
Look, she wouldn't be the Lone Ranger. There's been a lot of tourists that have met an unhappy ending in the outback areas of Australia.
Really?
Over the years, there's quite often, a few every year that you hear about that, cars have broken down. They think it's easy to drive out there, but the vast emptiness of it all means, if you break down or you run out of petrol, that you're pretty much you're going to be struggling to get out of there a lot of spots, I would think. It's a bit of a sad that you go on probably a trip of a lifetime and that happens, I guess, but that's what happens, which that sort of leads me, when you talk about Germans travelling, that led me into something else I was reading today, that in 2024, 11.6 million Australians made outbound trips, and Australia's only got a population of 25 million, so out of that, nearly half equates to nearly half the population, but not. Some people would be making 2 or 3 or 4 outbound trips, I guess, but I still find that's a fairly significant number. 11.6 million outbound trips by Australians out of a population of 25 million in 1 year. So, we're travellers for sure.
Yeah, you live a little bit off the main road for most of the Western world, and
we do.
So you in order to see anything not domestic, you would have to go outside.
Definitely.
But I think traveling is great. I think it's I hope they can crack the code of having more sustainable travel means. Because
I still can't believe that. I can't believe that there's not an airplane that flies faster, like literally, than there was 20 years ago. And I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's all about fuel consumption and the bottom line. So there must be like a certain speed that that they fly that uses the least amount of petrol, and things like that. Because surely in today's age we should be able to get to places in half the time we got there in 25 years ago. Literally.
Absolutely, the Concorde was sort of it was. They stopped using the Concorde because it was too expensive. It was not fuel efficient enough, and they had a couple of incidents. Sadly, was it 120 people who died in Paris? You're right. We should be able to do this faster. We should be able to go
travel faster, shouldn't we? I reckon that as well. That leads me into my next topic of conversation that I was looking at. Airlineratings.com released their top 10 airlines for 2025. I read today. So there's I only wrote down the top 10. Actually released their top 25. You care to take a punt at some airlines that could be in the top 10? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say Ryanair for sure. One of them.
No Ryanair in the top 10.
Really?
No.
Then Qantas.
Qantas is in the top 10, yes. They come in at number 8.
Okay.
So no Lufthansa. Actually, not many European airlines at all when I look at this. Actually,
AirAsia then?
None. Only Turkish. Turkish Airlines comes in at number 10.
Wow.
So the top rated full-service airline for 2025 was Korean Air, which I've never flown on them, so I can't talk about that. Qatar came in at number 2. I've flown on Qatar.
Yeah, that's a big
I think Qatar was probably the best airline I've ever flown with. So and that was probably 8 years ago, and nothing's changed my mind since that trip. Air New Zealand comes in at number 3, which I've never flown Air New Zealand either, so I don't really.
I have. They are. I got to say, Air New Zealand is really one of my top 3 as well, because they were really good.
Excellent. Cathay Pacific's number 4. I've never flown them, but I will be flying them next month. So that'll
we'll get a full review
new.
then.
I got to fly Cathay from China to the Philippines, so with a stop off in Hong Kong to change planes. So that'll be interesting. Singapore Airlines is always in the top 10 all the time, and they're probably one of the second best airline I've ever flown with. So I'm flying them next month as well, from Melbourne to Phnom Penh. Emirates, I've flown Emirates as well, but that was way back in 2003, so 20 odd years since I've flown Emirates. Japan Airlines, never flown them, so they're in the top 10. Qantas, Etihad, and Turkish Airlines rounds off the top 10 rated best full-service airlines for 2025.
A lot of Middle East, Asia-based airlines. Yeah.
Especially the Middle East ones. I think they're always in the list because they're really service-orientated, I think. And I think because they're all funded, they're all government-funded, so the money's not quite so tight as a lot of these publicly listed airlines when you're owned by, development corporations and sheiks with billions of dollars of oil and countries and things like that. It's a bit easier on the dollar to be able to offer a far better service.
Do you think they're profitable? We will never know.
Well, you will never know. They might be what they call, some of them. I'd say some of them will, but they could often be what they call a zombie airline. I was watching some YouTube
As we do,
as I regularly do. So what can happen is these state-owned airlines, they can actually become what they call a zombie airline, where they're only propped up by the government to succeed and they can't fail, but at the same time they really can't get any better and they can't innovate any because they're only got enough funding to continue to run because the government pumps them up. So I was watching this about Garuda Indonesia. So Garuda's had about 5 restructures in the last 20 years, and the government won't let them fail because governments like to have a national airline just in case there's an emergency somewhere or, something like COVID, and they've got to send them to fly everywhere. So Garuda had a really big restructure, what I was watching, about 2005, and they were set about acquiring up to 195 planes to be one of the top airlines in the world at that stage. And they got to about 140 planes, but they were hampered by, as often happens in Asia, corruption. So the leader at that time was buying planes off companies in order to get kickbacks, and these planes really weren't suitable for what they were wanting to do with these planes. A lot of them were short-haul planes that weren't big enough for the route, but because the management were getting kickbacks, it was all they were buying it, which then put them in a downward spiral. So they had another restructure, I think, 2018, and they had another one post-COVID, 2022. They had another restructure where they had billions of dollars pumped in, and then this last month they had another one because they had half their fleet sitting on the tarmac because they didn't have enough money to pay for maintenance, and maintenance was wanting them to pay up front because they'd had all these debt restructures where they were organising bailouts with companies, and they weren't paying them all they were owed. So Garuda's a sort of bit of an example of what they call a zombie airline, because without their government propping them up, they wouldn't exist, which makes it harder for other airlines, because if your government's funding them, you can have cheaper prices, things like that sometimes than what your natural competitors would get. But in saying that, I'm flying Garuda in October as well. So I have flown Garuda before. Garuda's actually a 5-star airline. And their airline, the times I've flown them, they've been quite good, and I like flying them out of Bali because the plane they fly out of Bali is an old style one, so it's a 242 configuration, and I like the 2 seats on the windows. Yes. So I've flown them a few times and paid a little bit more than what I would pay for some flights from Australia to Bali. So sometimes it's worth paying a little bit extra for a little bit more comfort sometimes. So
that destiny sounds a little bit like SAS Scandinavian Airlines, the Scandinavian. It's only the Danish government, the Danish state, Norway and Sweden have sold all of their assets, all their shares in it. And for a while, they really struggled. But now, within the last 2 weeks, they've been bought by KLM Air France. Okay. Partly, they would take over about 35% of the shares, I think. So the Danish government, Danish state, is still a large shareholder.
Yep.
But
it's a hard market to run a plane, I think.
Yeah. And this will change the whole, the airline association. What do you call those? When they work together, we have
One World and Star Alliance and all them.
All these. So they actually moved from Star Alliance, which I had all my miles on Star Alliance, but now they're probably moving this to I think it's One. It's called. Is that
One World?
One World. Yeah,
I think Qantas are One World. I think. So, but I don't know whether maybe it's been a bit harder for them. I know Finnair have struggled a lot because Finnair used to fly a lot of routes to Asia, but over Russia, and when you can't fly over Russia, it makes the flight length longer, so it costs them more, and turned Finnair pretty much non-competitive at one stage. I think Qantas are actually wet leasing, is what they call it, when they lease planes off other companies. Qantas are wet leasing 4 or 5 Finnair planes and cabin crew at the moment to fly routes for them because Qantas are short on planes, and Finnair are short on business basically at the moment because of it. So they take the Finnair plane and they take their staff, and I don't know whether they changed the livery or not to Qantas. So not quite sure whether that happened or not, but they take on Finnair's pilots and Finnair's staff and just rebranded as Qantas. And I think they've been flying like Bangkok, Sydney, Bangkok, Melbourne in these Finnair Qantas planes now for the last 12 months. So
that's kind of a cool job if you're adventurous and you want to see the world as a captain or stewardess or whatever, cabin crew.
For sure. It's just because them sort of airlines don't fly to Australia normally.
No.
Like there's very few major European carriers that actually land in Australia. A lot of them go as far as Singapore, and then Qantas or someone brings them the rest of the way. Like I was reading today, Qantas had a bit of a tie-up with Air France KLM in the last week where they're going to be doing some code share flights with them. But the last time Air France landed in Australia was like 22 years ago or something like that. Like British Airways don't fly to Australia. Lufthansa don't fly to Australia. So none of the big European airlines fly actually as far as Australia. They generally just go to Asia and then code share the rest of the way through with like Qantas or Singapore Airlines or someone like that to get you through to Australia. So
how do you have? I thought they have now sort of. I don't know if it's happened or they're planning for it to happen. Maybe that's what I read, that there is a plane going from London to Sydney directly.
No, that's no, from Perth at the moment. They can do Perth to London direct at the moment until Qantas get their next generation jets, and then it will certainly be happening. But I think we touched on this last week. Not my cup of tea to fly that far without getting off.
No. No, but I mean,
I don't like.
It's nice to know it's possible because I mean, yeah. But you're right. It's nice to get off, stretch your legs.
I don't mind getting off. It sort of gives you a fresh reset, like it. Especially if the flight's uncomfortable or you're tired and you can't get to sleep. This sort of, for me, it just freshens me up to get off and have a walk and have a look around and sort of reset my psyche to going back on and sitting down, because for most Australians it's either the flight's either 7 hours to Singapore and then 11 hours onwards or whatever it is, or 13 hours onwards, or it's 13 hours to the Middle East and then 7 hours onwards to Europe. So either way, you're gonna have a 12 hour plus flight at some stage to get to Europe. It used to be 3 hops. Like I think I did Melbourne, Singapore, Doha,
Dubai,
and then Europe at one stage. But some people like it, and some people really love flying enough to sit on a plane for 20 hours. My wife reckons she'd do it, but I said, you can do it alone. I'll take another plane, just come back to the airport and pick me up after you get there.
But you're right. It really depends on how comfortable you are. If you're comfortable and you've got a good seat and crew is nice, then it's no bother.
If I could afford business where you had a semi-lay-down chair, I'd
that's
no
another
problem whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a completely different matter. Yeah,
but most economy classes are getting smaller, aren't they? Most economy seats are getting smaller and smaller with less leg room all the time. Which makes it all that much compounding. I guess sometimes it's all right.
Speaking of business, maybe that's why I have such a good memory about Air New Zealand, because that was a business ticket. So that was really nice.
never ever flown business, so I can't comment on that. One day maybe. So we'll see.
I've only done it.
We'll see what happens.
I've only done it when it was paid for by travel insurance, and they couldn't get out of sending me away. But no, that was a good experience. Annoyance on board planes. Have you? I think we might have talked about this in a very early episode, but I want to touch base on it again. When you travel with particularly airlines that are very international. For instance, Qatar, Etihad, they make their announcements in 5 different languages.
Yeah,
and it takes like forever. You have the feeling they're constantly talking on the intercom. And you just you can't fall asleep. You can't fall asleep because it's very loud.
No.
Yeah.
It's like when you take a flight. Like, I'm sure I'll experience this next week when we fly, or the week after when we fly to Phnom Penh. But we've got a flight out of Melbourne at 11:35 p.m. So with Singapore Airlines to Singapore first, and then we're there for 2 hours and on to Phnom Penh. But no doubt, after the flight leaves at 11:30, they will come around with a meal service at like 12:30, because that's generally, it's a full service carrier. So they'll come around with something like straight off, because that's what they mostly do. And I don't know who wants to eat at 12:30, like at night. Like, I just want to go to sleep, like literally, if I'm on there. Half the reason I book a flight at that hour of the night is because I know that if I get on, then I'll sleep for at least half the flight. Yeah. Hopefully. Like, I can kill 4 or 5 hours of an 8-hour flight to Singapore by being asleep.
True.
Not that I'm a great sleeper on planes. I've bought this cushion that blows up, and you can put your head down into it, and the cushion sits against the back of the seat in front of you, and it's got a gap in there, and your arms can actually fit through it, and you can just lean on the front seat like that with it. So
you won't wake up with your neck completely damaged.
Yeah, no, it's great, because I have real trouble just sort of sitting back in my seat and falling asleep. Like, even before that, I would put my hands on where the TV screen is in the front of the seat and lean against them like that to go to. And then your arms can fall asleep, and you get pins and needles after a while, and you wake up and you're like, So yeah, I mean, I don't dislike flying, but I'm not a good sleeper or rester on a plane. I'm actually not a good anything on a plane. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm not scared of flying, and I have no issue, no worry about it. But I find I'm a little bit, I don't know, agitated. It's not probably the word, but I can't sit there and concentrate and watch a 2-hour movie. Like, I just can't. I can't sit there. I don't know whether it's the screen's small or the sound's bad or the humming in the plane. I just really can't get into a groove where I can sleep for a long time or even watch something. So I take so many different things, like, I'll watch the movie, I'll take some podcasts to listen to, I'll take an ebook to read, I'll take my tablet with some games on it. So, I've always got 4 or 5 different options for something that I can do, because I just can't. I find it very hard to sit there for 2 hours and concentrate on a movie, let alone flying for 10 hours and maybe watching 5 movies, where I can just sit back and relax. The seat's not comfortable, then you get a friggin' dead ass after you've been sitting there for a while. And you lean forward, you lean back, you get up. It's a bit annoying for me, but like
I hear you, man. It's sort of the same, but and but I can fall asleep. That is possible for me. So that's why I'm normally an aisle person, but for a late, and that's annoying, because if you fall asleep and there are people sitting by the window, or maybe in a three-seat configuration, someone in the middle, and they want to go to the loo. That's just annoying. So if I could plan it, and it was a late flight, and I was planning on sleeping, I would probably go for a window seat, because then nobody would disturb me. Yeah,
it's a bit of a challenge for us. We've probably discussed this before too, but I like the aisle and Rebecca likes the window, which is all right when you're traveling with Marley, because we can pluck her in the middle. But this trip we won't be. So I've just actually taken the punt of booking a window and an aisle, and we'll just see if someone plops in the middle. I'm working on a theory that if I book it down near the back, they tend to fill up the front of the plane first. So hopefully, if there's any spare seats, we might cop the spare seat in the middle, but we'll see what happens. So
you sort of learn your little tricks, don't you? But I'm sure the airlines.
I've tried this before. I've tried this before and it hasn't worked. But
you can always try. You can always try.
We'll see what happens this time, and I'll probably log on to Singapore's website actually next week and check my seating. It'll be able to tell me if there's someone sitting in between us, if that seat's full at this stage. And if it is, then there might be an option to move to another 2 seats somewhere where it's not full. So if you that's another thing to do, keep checking your seat map before you fly, and you might be able to readjust if there's people, already booked in between you.
And you don't pay a fee every time you do that?
No, not on full fare. No, once you, like Singapore and all them ones, it's free to to allocate your seating. But even other airlines where you have to pay, once you've paid for that seat, you can then move anyway, as long as you move. They'll have different classes of seats, obviously.
Okay.
So as long as you move somewhere within that same class of seating, you can pretty much move anywhere you like. So so that's another one. If you're really keen, just keep checking your seat map on the plane to see if there's anyone next to you or around you or in front of you or behind you even. So that's another way. So I'll have a look next week and see if there's anyone on Singapore who's booked. So I don't mind it. I don't mind sitting on the window or in the middle if it's only a couple of hours. Like from Singapore to Phnom Penh, we've got 2 hours, so I'm actually going to sit on the window because it's daylight and I want to do some filming out the window. I normally let Rebecca sit on the window, but being 2 hours, I was like, no, I'm going to sit on the window. I couldn't remember the last 2010, sometimes 2018, 2019 would have been the last time I sat on a window.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's nice. It's a good way to get some B-roll for your YouTube channel, isn't it?
Yes. Definitely. Yeah. I've got so much airplane footage. Like, Jimmy camera Rebecca, film takeoff, film landing.
Yeah. No, it's always, I enjoy the takeoff and landing because it gives you a good view of where you are leaving or arriving, and one of the, I must say, my native Denmark in Copenhagen, it's a very, very beautiful fly in when you come, because you can come from the south or from east. I think they have their runways and south north or east west. And if you come from the east, flying over Sweden, and you have like the bridge and the belts and everything, it's really nice and beautiful when you come in. And if you're lucky, you can sometimes you come all the way in over Copenhagen. The wind has to be in a specific direction. Then they fly in over Copenhagen, even the larger planes. So that's
I think most times when you fly into Melbourne, you fly in over the city as well, which is quite nice. So normally it doesn't bother me, but I thought we're flying out of Singapore, it'll be daylight, and we're flying into Copenhagen. Not Copenhagen, but you just said that, into Phnom Penh, it'll be daylight. So I thought, I'm going to sit on the window for once.
Yeah.
But some airports are really nice to fly into, especially when you get to see a lot around the place. Actually, flying into where Willow lives in China at night is really nice because they have LED lights on all the buildings that are along the coastline in this bay area, and you fly straight over the top of it. So you can see all these skyscrapers that are lit up like, 200-floor skyscrapers that are lit up with all these neon lights that changes, like, they change into fish and all these symbols of China. Yeah, and you can actually see it from the plane as you come in over the city to go to the airport. So that was really quite nice last time we flew in there.
Is that like when they light up the Sydney Opera House? I think.
Yeah, like that. But that's a whole stretch of buildings that go for maybe a kilometre along the beach. Yeah, that light up. Yeah, it's fantastic. So I assume I'll be going down there again when we get back to China to have another look. Last time we were there, I think I went down there about 3 out of 6 nights just to have a look, sit there and watch it. It was quite nice. But
it's quite ambitious. But they have these big constructions in China. They don't mind.
Yeah,
their size.
No, not at all. But it's been really hot actually in China, and it's been really hot in Cambodia. I think it said in Phnom Penh today it was 35 but feeling like 44, and I think China said 36 and feeling like 43. So it's going to be some there's going to be some hot and sweaty weather going on, that's for sure. I'm only packing one pair of pants and one jumper, and that'll be just to get me into Melbourne Airport, since it'll be the middle of winter, and after that I doubt I will be putting pants or a jumper on again until the day we return to Melbourne, literally. So it's going to be sweaty.
Have you been talking about Singapore Airport? Is also very beautiful to fly into.
I've definitely heard. It's very beautiful inside. Like, it's like a destination in itself inside. Like, there's water fountains and rainforests and all sorts of things inside Singapore Airport. Actually, Singapore is a really good airport anyway. Like we used to, I don't know if a lot of people, it wasn't well known, I think it is now, but you used to be able to go to a hotel on the roof of Singapore Airport and had a swimming pool there, and you could actually pay some money and go for a swim. We took the kids there a few times when we were traveling because we used to have like 7 hours in Singapore a lot of times. So you go up to this roof hotel, pay, I don't know what it was back then, it might have been $5 a person, and you could access the pool, and it was a good way. You could also then access the showers. So you could have a shower and freshen up before your next leg of the flight. And for us, it was always good because we could get the kids changed into pajamas at the airport and then ready to get on the plane, because the planes were normally overnight like they are to Europe, and the kids could get in their pajamas and we'd put them on the plane in their seats and hopefully they'd fall asleep. So, and the pool was outdoors, so you could see planes landing and taking off. It was...
I was just going to ask you, could you actually observe all the action going on in the airport? Yeah,
you could. And I haven't been to Singapore where I've had a long stay for a long time, so I haven't really tried to go and access that again. Last time would have been in 2019, but like this time I've only got 2 hours in Singapore. I think last time we were there, we had 4 hours. We probably could have, but we went to a lounge instead and paid for a lounge pass, which you could have a shower there and had a few drinks and a free food and things like that. So yeah, look, I've never been one to go to a lounge often. I don't know about you. Are you an airline lounge person or
not? Really. I think it's overpriced, and the quality is rarely really good. So no, I'm not in for paying extra just for that, to be honest. But I've had a couple of experiences with it. It's been okay, but I don't see.
Yeah.
I don't see what the fuss is about. I mean, I really don't. Unless you really fly one of the exclusive airlines and you have like, restroom showers, and you have a long stay over, so you can be there for hours. Then maybe I would appreciate it.
I've really only got one to measure it by, and that's the only one I went to in Singapore this day, and it wasn't too bad. I think it was about $40 a person Australian, so maybe 20 euros.
Yeah.
25 euros. So we went in there and you could stay there for up to 3 hours, I think. So we went in and Rebecca was able to have a shower and Marley was able to have a shower, and the food was okay, and the chairs were comfy and they had free alcohol. You could drink Johnny Walker or Smirnoff or whatever you like. That was free if you wanted to, or wines and things like that. So that was quite nice. And actually I just booked a lounge in Bali on our way out of there in November, more for research for something that I can film a YouTube video on or put on our Bali website as much as anything. So it was a Garuda Indonesia lounge, so I'll be interested to see what that's like. But generally, when I go to an airport I've never been before, I'm happy just to wander around and actually have a look at the airport, because I like airports and I like wandering around. So we're in Shanghai for 5 hours, and that's probably a good enough time to go to a lounge if you really wanted to. 5 hours, because you could have 3 hours in a lounge, but I didn't because I'm thinking Shanghai Airport's probably pretty big and pretty flash, and I'll be able to walk around and see enough things provided my wife hasn't killed me by that stage, or because the flight leaves Phnom Penh at midnight and it's only a 4-hour flight, so we get into Shanghai at 4:15 in the morning, and then we've got to sit there for 5 hours until our connecting flight takes us to where our daughter lives. And one thing my wife doesn't do well is handle not having a lot of sleep. So that will be quite interesting. I might just say, you just go sit down over there and I'll just go for a walk. And
I'll just wander around, what I do like is flight spotting. Some airports they have wide open windows and you can just sit there and watch the planes. So rather than sit in a lounge, I'm actually more into just watching the runways and the action going on out there. But if you can do that from the lounge, then I would be all okay with that. There's in Copenhagen, there's
that do that.
Yeah, there exactly.
There's one in Melbourne that's just started in the last 6 months, which I quite often tune into, where they're just there on the roof, couple of blokes talking about the planes that are landing, taking off, things like that in Melbourne. So it's quite.
It's a bit nerdy, but it's there's a hot dog stand in Copenhagen, it's way outside the airport, but it's almost on the other end of the runways. So all the planes are passing by. And that hot dog stand has been in business for the last 50 years, I think. There are always a lot of people. And they've made like a big terrace, a little bit raised on a small like hill. And so you got a great view. And imagine, more prominent airplanes coming in, like Air Force One or something of importance, then you can always find a lot of plane spotters there.
People. Yeah.
And I would, when I lived in Copenhagen, I did this with Anton when he was a small kid. We would just, drive out there at night. Just, kill a few hours, have a hot dog, and just watch the planes. It's great, great, great entertainment.
There's one in Melbourne as well at the end of the runway that we've been to only a couple of times. Whenever Willow's left, both times we've gone to this spot on the end of the runway and watched her plane fly over. So, and it's just a car park. There's nothing special about it. It's a gravel car park on the edge of the turn off to the Hume Highway. But there's
not even a coffee house or anything.
There's always a food truck there that's selling. Coffee, dim sims, pies, hot dogs, and there's generally an ice cream truck there as well selling things. And quite often it's full. I wouldn't say it's huge. There's probably room in there for maybe 20 or 30 cars, I guess. And quite often it's full of people. Both times we've been there during the day to watch Willow's plane take off, but Melbourne doesn't actually have a plane watching area in the airport at all. There's a lot of places, you can go into a roof or they have an outdoor smoking area or something like that where you can, and Melbourne doesn't have one anywhere so you can't actually watch anything take off unless you go to this area up at the end of the runway and watch it from there. So it's quite popular.
It's strange. In Munich, they have a huge terrace as well, roof terrace, where you can watch one side of the airport, not both sides, because now they have, it's really on the airport main terminal is literally in the middle of everything. But only to one side you can watch, but it's okay. It's the distance is a little far away. In Copenhagen, it's quite. They literally, you feel like you can touch the planes because there's just a fence. The mandatory fence that you need to have if you're an international airport.
And they come up and fly straight over the top of you, or are they beside you?
You're on the side, so you literally see. They take off, but and also when they arrive, they taxi literally just like 15 meters away.
So in Melbourne, you don't see any of that. Melbourne's is at the end of the runway, so basically, all of a sudden you just see the plane loom up on the horizon, and then it flies straight over the top of you. So, they probably start from maybe I'm guessing probably 200 or 300 meters away when it takes off. And then I couldn't guess how high it is. It's not that high because you can read the bottom of the planes quite easily, what's on them. So, there might be couple hundred meters in the air or so by the time they come over the top of you. Not enough for you to feel any wind draft or, anything like that. But they just either fly straight over the top of you or land straight over the top of you, depending on which way the runway's operating on that day.
I've seen a couple of YouTube videos where they have spots where you can stand and spot the planes, and they're on the beach and the planes they're literally, you could almost touch them. That's a little too close to my comfort, I must say.
I think there's a famous spot I think it's in the Caribbean. There's always a KLM plane or somewhere that's coming in over the top, and people like blow away onto the beach and things like that. And it looks quite crazy actually to do that. But I love airports. I think they're for me they're a world of possibility. People are always coming or going. I love looking at the board, seeing where flights are going to. Things like that. It's an adventure. It's the start of something when you're at the airport, basically.
Absolutely, that you said it right. That's absolutely true. It's I think if you have like a a traveler in your belly, and it's just, you have that adventurous mind. It's a world of possibility. I love that. That's why that's the attraction for me as well.
Yeah, it's just exciting. There's something going on all the time. There's people coming or going, and like even last time, like I don't often go to arrivals, like because I'm arriving myself. So there's never really many people that I've ever been to the airport to pick up. But, we went and stood there last time when our daughter came home from China in February. And like it's quite delightful to see people reuniting, obviously, after a long time and things like that. People come out and you can see the excitement on people's faces at their family members or their boys or their kids or, someone's home and people are, yelling and screaming and crying and hugging and, things like that. And, so airport can be quite an emotional place, I guess, as well as an exciting place, can't it? So
absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good note to end the episode.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So you've been listening to Southern Summers and Northern Winters. Once again, this was number 26, Mark. It's,
yes, number 26.
And for those interested... Yeah. For those interested, we are... slowly getting the notes sorted. Mark, you're doing a couple of episodes at a time, and I upload them. And if you go back to our catalog of episodes, you will be able to now better navigate into each episode and see what we're talking about. So yeah, because we're talking off script, and that's the way it should be.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
we have very, very little knowledge of where the conversation takes us each week. We just jump in and let rip, basically, don't we, to see what happens? So
I see that as a main advantage, really. Speaking of,
most definitely,
one thing speaking of podcast, there was there's a girl I follow on YouTube called Ellie in Space. She showed an example of an AI-generated podcast. She just wrote a prompt about a specific theme, and I don't know if she asked it to make a podcast episode or she asked it to look for an episode. Nevertheless, what the result was a completely AI-generated episode about space travel and specifically SpaceX and the issues and challenges of traveling to the moon. And she played like a couple of minutes of this episode. And then she said, you would think these are two people sitting there and talking, but it's actually completely AI-generated. That's a little disturbing, I must say.
It is. Well, you can use a program called Notebook NL, which is a Google program. And if you're a blogger, you can actually load your blog post, your URL into it, and it will generate you a podcast based on your article with two people speaking, like a male and a female that sound... because I did it with a couple just to see what it sounded like. So, and they'll just summarise the main points and things like that and have a, and if you didn't know, it would probably be pretty hard to pick that it wasn't real, because they're actually factually taking your own information and just rewording it. So it follows along the script of what your blog posts are. So I made an account and published a few just to see whether it would work or not, but none of them have got any great views, like maybe 10 views. 10 listens was probably the most I had of one. I did about 6 in a day and just chucked them all out there on Spotify to see if it would gain any traction, just trying other things to get
of course,
get eyes and ears on your content to see what works. But it definitely wasn't working. But I mean, it just depends what you're looking for, I guess. A lot of my content was things to do with city guides with teenagers, and there's probably 1,000 guides out there, for people to listen to. So unless you get yourself out there, no one's listening to them. But it was worth actually, if I think about it, I'll find one and send you the link, and you can listen and see what it sounds like.
Because what I noticed, obviously, then when she said, these are AI generated podcasts, but what already annoys me with many very, very professionally produced podcasts is the lack of quirkiness. What I like in a podcast, two guys like us, we're just talking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of quirky things going on, and it's the imperfection, and we're just people. That's what I like. When something is really polished to the max, it sort of gets boring for me. And this podcast, this AI generated podcast was very polished, sounded very professional. There was no quirkiness, no, I don't know. And let me just have a look. And, it was just boring. It was, the topic might have been interesting, but it's just, I can't listen to this. This is just way too generic. Yeah. Well, so,
I hear you.
Yeah. Anyways. Thank you very much, Mark. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. And say hello to Beck, and
you say hello to your family. I hope you have a nice weekend. Just you and your wife in town with your son.
Yeah. We're actually going over to the neighbors tonight because they are going. They're going to Bangkok for 3 years.
Oh, yeah, you were saying that the other week.
Yeah. So, and they have a huge party next week, but the closest neighbors they have invited for dinner tonight.
Oh, you get the special party.
Yeah, very, very special party. So we're going there tonight.
Excellent.
Yeah. So have a great weekend, Mark. And
you too, mate. We'll talk next Friday.
We will. Bye.
Cheers.